definitely time to make some tea. This morning I'm going to be talking about procrastination, and over the past few months I've been doing a lot of reading and listening to podcasts about procrastination, and I've come to a different conclusion to what advice I would usually have given, say, a year or so ago. So I think, for my past self and anyone else who struggles with procrastination, I still struggle with it, I wanted to give this different perspective on what procrastination is and what you can do to overcome it. So I'm going to make a cup of tea and then I'll set up. This subject of procrastination is something that always comes up if you're doing a sort of long-term project or if you're studying, and it is that urge to stop the work you're doing and do something more fun or more pleasurable. A lot of us take procrastination as a problem with our time management, and we think, if only I could just be more productive, then I wouldn't procrastinate. But I just don't think that is the case, because what procrastination really is a habit that we train ourselves to do to avoid the discomfort we feel when we are doing really tough work. So if we think about it this way, procrastination is actually a problem with emotional management rather than time management. I think that is a really, really important thing to think about when you're trying to stop procrastinating, because most of the advice out there is all about managing the symptoms of procrastination, which is the thing you want to do when you don't want to work. So that could be reaching for social media, watching TV, cleaning the house, all of the things that you want to go and do instead of doing the work. But really the root cause of procrastination lies in your emotional management, and it should really be about tackling that discomfort in order to break the habit of procrastination. Now, throughout my university career, I have procrastinated so many times, and if I reflect on it now, it's definitely been in the times where I have not been managing my mind as well as I should be. And it's only now, really, after reading a few books. So the book Atomic Habits really talks about procrastination being an emotional management problem, and podcasts such as The Perfectionism Project by Sam Laura Brown, they have really emphasized to me that if you want to combat procrastination, you have to really manage your emotions. I want you now to think about the feelings you have when you want to procrastinate. What are they? For me, it's discomfort. It's like, I'd rather be doing anything else but this right now. Doing really tough work or working on a project which means a lot to you brings these sort of fears to the surface, and procrastination therefore acts as a mechanism to stop us feeling that way. Your brain wants to feel good right now, right in the present moment. This is something called present bias. And our brains are very similar to our ancestors hundreds of thousands of years ago. And back in that time, it was very important to have short-term pleasure, short-term reward, because that indicated survival. Our brains are very, very, very similar to those ancestors. Our brain is automatically still going for those short-term gains over the long-term gains. And procrastination acts as one of these short-term gains, because what it is an attempt to do is to get your brain out of that discomfort and onto something more pleasurable. But the thing about procrastination is that I know that when you procrastinate later on, you're not going to feel good about it. So you're going to still experience discomfort and not feeling that great about yourself after you've procrastinated. We intellectually understand that procrastination does not lead to good things for us, but our brain is wired to get that short-term pleasure, and that is why it is really difficult to break. Many of us actually have a habit of procrastinating, and this is because our brain builds habits based on reward. So take, for example, scrolling through social media as your go-to procrastination activity. What happened here is that there's probably one time in the past where you will have been doing some difficult work, felt that discomfort of, oh my goodness, I'm scared, this work is really overwhelming, and reach for your phone. And what you find then is the discomfort goes away. And so your brain starts to form a habit around discomfort going away, picking up phone. But the more you do this, the more you feel discomfort, grab the phone, feel better. This then leads to a hard wiring in the brain and it creates a habit. With procrastination, what you're actually trying to do if you want to stop doing it is you are trying to break a very strong habit in your brain. I am definitely speaking from personal experience here, and I have managed to combat procrastination over the past few months with writing my thesis. I've been really managing my procrastination on that habitual, deep emotional management level. And there's a few tips that I've come up with and I found from other sources that I think will really help you if you struggle with procrastination. So managing the symptoms of procrastination, like what I referred to before, is sort of doing things like, if I'm talking about social media again, it's going on your phone and deleting all your social media apps. That is what managing a symptom would be. But if you're trying to combat that underlying cause of procrastination, instead of having to delete all the apps on your phone, you will just be able to not pick up your phone and look at the apps in the first place. So that's the difference here between the managing of symptoms and treating the cause of procrastination. So some of the ways that I've started to do this is to really focus on my self-image. If I say to other people, I'm really bad, I always procrastinate, I'm a procrastinator, I just can't stop procrastinating, I will keep procrastinating. Your brain likes to live out what you believe about yourself. Your brain doesn't like to be wrong. So if you keep telling yourself that you are a procrastinator, your default will be to go back to procrastinating. So instead of believing that you are a procrastinator, you need to start to move this belief to a more neutral or positive belief about yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be true right now. We believe a lot of things that aren't true. What you need to do is change your beliefs about yourself and wait for the evidence to come later, because otherwise the evidence will never come. So instead of saying, I'm a procrastinator, start to say, when I work on my thesis, I never look at my phone. Or when I work on my thesis, my phone doesn't distract me. Start to play around with different phrases that you can use when you're referring to yourself. Don't call yourself a procrastinator. I am struggling really hard. Even in this video, I'm trying to not say, I struggle with procrastination or I'm a procrastinator, because that's then reinforcing this identity that I procrastinate and I'm trying to not procrastinate. So self-image is so important. I think a really good example of this is someone who's giving up smoking. So I don't smoke, but if I'm sat at a table with someone who has cigarettes there, I'm not tempted at all to pick up a cigarette and smoke because I identify as a non-smoker. Whereas if someone is giving up smoking and they identify still as a smoker, there will be a lot of temptation there to pick up a cigarette. What is really important is to change that inner belief about yourself from I'm quitting smoking to I'm a non-smoker, and remove the temptation altogether to pick up a cigarette. It's the same with procrastination. Move from I'm trying to stop procrastinating to I don't procrastinate. And that can feel quite a jump if you do struggle with procrastination at the minute. So moving to a more neutral belief of procrastination is not something I do often could be a first belief for you to try and get out of that procrastination habit. Another thing that I've been doing to stop myself from procrastinating is to create friction between myself and those procrastination habits. So if I'm using the example again of my phone, I'm keeping my phone out of reach when I am working. I leave it in a different room. I do not check social media until after midday. I've turned off all of my notifications, just doing things so when that discomfort arises, it's not easy for me to procrastinate. Now, this is very different to going this whole cold turkey hog and deleting all the apps, because if you feel the need to delete all the apps off your phone, you are still identifying as a procrastinator. So going back to my first point, if you think I need to delete everything off my phone, that is because you feel like you can't control your urge to procrastinate, and it reaffirms that you are a procrastinator. So the way to do this is just to create some friction between you and the procrastinating habit that you normally go to. And what this starts to do is break down that loop of discomfort procrastination. And for me, that is discomfort arises, social media feel good. I'm starting to try and break that by removing the social media element from it, by keeping my phone in a different room. Something that is super important if you haven't been procrastinating and you're proud of yourself is to reward yourself internally. It's very easy to replace one procrastination habit with another. So for me, if I start leaving my phone in another room and I'm like, yay, I didn't procrastinate, I didn't look at my phone, I'm going to reward myself now by listening to an hour-long podcast. I will start to replace the procrastination habit of social media with procrastinating by listening to hour-long podcasts in the middle of the day when I need to be working. So it's very important to not just replace one procrastination habit with another, but instead to start rewarding yourself internally. So praise yourself for the effort you've put in, being like, wow, well done me. I didn't procrastinate at all during those hours. I'm really proud of the effort I put into that work session. I'm really proud of the progress I'm making with my thesis. Start to tell yourself these things as you would with a friend. I think we do not talk to ourselves internally well enough. If your friend came to you and was a bit down and said, oh, I've only written 500 words of my thesis today, you would be like, wow, that's amazing. 500 words, that's such good progress. Start to speak to yourself like you would speak to a friend and give yourself those internal rewards of praising your efforts. And this should hopefully make it a little bit easier to get through those sessions and not procrastinate. Another thing that I've been trying to do is to question my discomfort when it arises, and this has been really interesting. Normally I would just fall into, oh, I feel discomfort, I'm going to procrastinate, and I wouldn't even question it. But once the discomfort arises, take a pause and question, ooh, why is this making me feel a bit uncomfortable? Why don't I want to do this work? I've actually been doing this and it really works to stop me from procrastinating, because I will just think, oh, isn't this weird? I don't want to do this work right now. Why is that? Oh, that's because I'm really scared that it's not going to be good enough. And then I sort of talk to myself and think, well, I've got to do it anyway. And if it's not good enough, I'm sure someone would have told me already by now, or it's going for checks with my supervisors anyway, so they're going to check it over for me. And if it's not good enough, they will definitely say, you need to redo this, redo that. So I may as well just keep working. And I sort of talk myself out of procrastinating. It's a really empowering thing to do, and it also gives your brain the sense of you have the control here. You don't have to just procrastinate. You can question it, stop yourself from doing it, and get back to work. This next thing is a really, really useful one, and I have been enjoying using it a lot. It's to make a pain of procrastination list. So we do not ever tend to think of the pain that procrastination will cause in the long term when we procrastinate, because we're after that short-term benefit, that short-term pleasure. So put a piece of paper and a pen next to your laptop when you're working, and when that sense of discomfort arises and you want to procrastinate, write 5 things down on that piece of paper of the pain that will come from procrastinating. Just 5 things. These could be, I'm going to delay the work, I'm going to be rushed for time, I'm not going to feel like I've done a good enough job. Write 5 things down on that paper and then read them to yourself. You can say them out loud, and hopefully this will show you that procrastination is not a good thing in the long term. You're going to feel that pain and discomfort eventually. So you may as well just keep on with your work. I also really love this idea from Sam Laura Brown on the Perfectionism Project. Whenever you feel the urge to procrastinate or stop working, write down the thing that you want to do and then keep working. So this could be, for example, oh, I'm hungry, I want to go to the fridge now and eat something 5 minutes after you started working and you've had breakfast 10 minutes before. That is just a procrastination urge to get rid of that discomfort feeling. Write down on the piece of paper, wanted to go to the fridge. And if there's anything important that comes up, because sometimes we convince ourselves some things are more important than the work we're doing, like, oh, I need to email this person, then you've got a list that you can do after you finish the allotted time for your work to complete any of those tasks that are important. And you can also see how many times your brain wants you to move away from that feeling of discomfort during work. I think that is also a really good thing to do, and it stops you from actually fulfilling these urges if you are writing them down. The last thing that I've been trying to do, and this is one that is a bit counterintuitive, I think, but it's to stop working while you still feel good. Yes, when you still feel good, stop working. I've been doing this with my thesis. I've been saying to myself, okay, this morning I'm going to do an hour and a half worth of work. I do these with Pomodoro timers, which I'll go into in another video. And when that hour and a half is up, I may feel pretty good and think, oh, I could keep going here. But I stop. And the reason that I stop is because the end of a behaviour is what you're most likely to remember. And if you keep pushing yourself until you get to that point where you're hating the work and you really, really want the break and you really, really want to stop, you will have resistance to coming back to it the next day. So what I've been doing is stopping when it still feels quite good, going away, doing some other things. And then when I come back to it later on, I feel really fine to pick it up, because my last association with that work is feeling good and feeling productive. So trying to stop when you feel good about your work and not when you're in that point where you're really hating it and just want to leave it be and never touch it again is something that can really help you to stop procrastinating next time round. So these are just a few things that I've been doing. It's all about breaking that procrastination habit. I will be back with more videos on the neuroscience of all of these things, such as habit formation and procrastination in the brain, and of course videos on how to be more productive and how to really use your brain and the neuroscience that we know about the brain to enhance your productivity and get those projects done to the best of your ability. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you next time. If you have any questions you want to ask me, you can comment below or you can get me on my social media accounts, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.